All right, guys, this is the discussion for The Kid Who Invented the Popsicle. This was our last story, finishing up these 3 stories that we will have a test on. The Dying Detective, The Kid Who Invented the Popsicle, and The King of Maisie May. All right, so the genre of this story is a nonfiction story, and it dives into the world of inventions. In each little vignette, we meet an inventor who has solved a problem. Some attempts failed, and they had to face many hardships. So first of all, we talked about the Popsicle, which was set in the winter of 1905. And a boy named Frank Epperson was the one who came up with this, and he was 11 years old at the time. So ultimately, he accidentally leaves powdered soda pop mix and water with a stick stuck in it on his back porch during the freezing cold weather. So, of course, when he comes back and the next day and pulls the stick out, the whole frozen sweet treat comes out with him. And so the original name was the Epperson Icicle. And he eventually calls it a popsicle because it was made with soda pop. Then we talked about the stuff that the Mayans chewed on was called chicle, a dried sap of the safadilla tree. And so the inventor Charles Adam, who came up with chewing gum, he came across chicle whenever he met the Mexican general Santa Anna and he had introduced him to it. And so ultimately all of Charles Adams' other inventions had failed, but he randomly popped some chicle in his mouth and ended up having a great idea to add flavoring into it. And of course, we know that there were some haters. There were some weird problems that people said it might cause. It might cause their intestines to stick together, which was ridiculous, and that it might exhaust their salivary glands. And so, but still, people today, the average American chews up to 200 sticks of bubble gum a year. So that's a crazy amount. Then we talked about the fly swatter. Frank H. Rose used a square screen on the end of a yardstick to create a fly smashing device. And the first name that he gave his invention was a fly bat. Why were the holes in the screen essential? Because flies can sense the air pressure of a solid object coming its way. The flashlight's initial purpose was the electric flower pot. It was It was a light to light up an artificial plant. And so the inventor found himself with an abundance and overstock of the item because they were not a success at all and did not sell. But ultimately, somebody thought that it might be a good idea to use it as a flashlight, a portable flashlight, so that's what it was called, a portable electric flashlight. Then Levi Strauss made a new type of pants for gold miners during the gold rush because they needed sturdy pants while they were digging and on their knees in the caves and sifting. So he came up with special pants, and he used tent canvas to make them, and people loved them. But he was not satisfied with the material, so he went to Italy and found something called jeans, Genes. He then later changed it to Jeans, like we know. And so why did he decide to stain them blue? Because it showed stains less. Then we talked about the paper cups that initially they were created to be a cup of chilled water for a penny, but nobody wanted to pay money for water. But at the time, drinking water was a hazard because people used one dipper in one bucket and passed germs around. One person decided to invest a ton of money into his paper cups, though, because he was a germaphobe. He did not like the unsanitary drinking situation, and this person actually invested $200,000. Pretty crazy. The kid who created the first calculator was 19 years old, and he pretty much just made a wooden box with 16 dials on it, which was awesome. All right, and so then the first Frisbee was named after a Frisbee pie company, and the idea came from the fact that customers would finish eating and they would finish eating their whole pie, then they would toss around the pans that the pies came in, and it kind of became a little game. The first version of the Frisbee was called the Flying Saucer, but they had to change it to plastic because it was initially metal and it was dangerous. Then lastly, we talked about the potato chips. They were first made in France, and they were initially French fries, but a customer wanted his French fries thinner, so the waiter kept having to go back there and cut his slices thinner, but he ultimately, the waiter got annoyed, so he was trying to play a trick on the customer and cut them super paper thin, but inadvertently he ended up being genius at making potato chips. All right, guys, so this is a simple discussion, but definitely on our test.